The sound of my wife's laughter drifting through our bedroom window at midnight should have been music to my ears. Instead, it felt like nails on a chalkboard, especially since I was sitting in my garage workshop and she was supposed to be asleep upstairs. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. I'm Ethan Morrison, 42 years old, and I fix computers for a living. Not the glamorous kind of tech work you see in movies. I'm the guy small businesses call when their systems crash and they're desperate. It pays the bills, barely, but it keeps me sharp. You learn a lot about people when you're elbow deep in their digital lives, cleaning up their messes. The laughter came again, followed by Jessica's voice, lower now, intimate. I set down my wrench and moved closer to the window. Our bedroom overlooks the backyard, and sound carries surprisingly well on these humid August nights in Millbrook, New York. "You're so bad," Jessica giggled. "What if Ethan hears us?" A chill ran through me. I pressed myself against the garage wall, straining to listen. A male voice responded, cocky and familiar. "Relax, babe. Your husband's probably passed out in that pathetic workshop of his. Besides, even if he heard, what's he gonna do? Guy couldn't intimidate a houseplant." Chad Brennan. I'd recognize that arrogant drawl anywhere. He managed the Ford dealership on Route 9, the kind of guy who wore too much cologne and called everyone buddy while trying to upsell them on extended warranties. Jessica had mentioned him a few times, always casually, always with that little smile that should have been my first warning. "Still," Jessica said, and I could hear the bed creaking. "I feel bad sometimes. He works so hard and here I am." "Here you are with a real man," Chad interrupted. "Someone who can actually satisfy you. When's the last time that loser made you feel like this?" I should have stormed upstairs, should have kicked down the door and confronted them both. Instead, I stood there in my oil-stained garage, listening to my wife of 12 years discuss my sexual inadequacies with her lover. The rational part of my brain, the part that troubleshoots problems for a living, was already working. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment thing. The way they talked, the comfort in their voices, this had been going on for a while. Weeks, maybe months. And I'd been completely oblivious, working late nights to save money for the vacation Jessica kept talking about. The girls' trip to the spa upstate that she'd been planning with her friend Marina. More pieces clicked into place. The new lingerie I'd found in the laundry, the sudden interest in working out, the way she'd started putting her phone face down whenever I entered the room. "I should go," Chad said eventually. "Early morning tomorrow." "Already, but we just—" "I know, babe, but I've got that big sale meeting. Don't worry, we'll have plenty of time next weekend when you're supposedly at that spa." They both laughed at that. At me, really. At how easy it was to fool the dumb tech guy who spent his evenings fixing other people's problems while his own life fell apart. I waited until I heard Chad's truck pull out of our driveway before heading back into the house. Jessica was in the bathroom, shower running. I stood in our bedroom doorway, looking at the rumpled sheets, smelling another man's cologne in the air. On her nightstand, Jessica's phone buzzed with a text. Without thinking, I picked it up. No lock screen. She'd never been paranoid about that before. The message was from Marina, but the content made it clear it was actually from Chad. "Can't stop thinking about tonight. You're incredible. Can't wait to get you alone at the cabin this weekend." I took a screenshot and sent it to my own phone, then deleted the evidence from her message history. 12 years of marriage, and it took 30 seconds to confirm what I already knew. The shower was still running. I had maybe 10 minutes before Jessica came out, probably ready to cuddle and pretend she'd been missing me all evening. Instead, I went to my home office and opened my laptop. If there's one advantage to being married to a tech guy, it's that you learn to trust him with passwords and accounts. Jessica had given me access to everything years ago: email, social media, even our joint credit cards. She'd never bothered to change any of it. Her Gmail was a gold mine. Months of messages, carefully filed in a folder labeled Spa Research. Chad wasn't the most articulate guy, but he was enthusiastic. They'd been meeting twice a week since May, usually at some sleazy motel outside town. The girls' nights with Marina were actually hookups. The yoga classes were afternoon sessions at Chad's place. But the real kicker was the credit card statements. Our joint account, the one I'd been feeding with overtime pay and weekend jobs, had been hemorrhaging money. Expensive restaurants I'd never been to, hotel rooms, lingerie from boutiques that cost more than I made in a week. The spa weekend she'd been planning, 5 days at some luxury resort in the Adirondacks, 2 rooms booked, but only one under her name. The other was under Chad's. I sat back in my chair, staring at the evidence. 12 years of marriage, and she'd been planning to spend our savings on a romantic getaway with another man. Money I'd earned fixing computers in basements and crawl spaces, dealing with people who treated me like the help. The shower shut off upstairs. I quickly closed the laptop and headed back to the garage. I needed time to think, to plan, because one thing was crystal clear. I wasn't going to take this lying down. When Jessica came looking for me 20 minutes later, I was back under the hood of my truck, grease on my hands and murder in my heart. "There you are," she said, leaning against the doorframe in her robe. "I was wondering where you'd gone." "Just working on the truck," I replied without looking up. "Couldn't sleep." "You work too hard, honey." She moved closer, putting her hand on my shoulder. The same hand that had been touching another man an hour earlier. "Come to bed. I missed you tonight." I almost laughed at the audacity of it. Instead, I nodded and started cleaning my tools. "Just give me a few minutes to finish up here." "Don't be too long," she said, kissing my cheek. "I've got something special planned for you." As she walked back toward the house, I wondered if she actually believed her own lies, or if she just thought I was too stupid to notice. Either way, she was about to learn that underestimating the quiet tech guy was a serious mistake. I had access to her digital life, her financial records, and 12 years of knowing exactly which buttons to push. Chad thought he was dealing with a pushover who couldn't intimidate a houseplant. He was about to find out how wrong he was. The next morning, Jessica was all smiles and coffee, bustling around the kitchen like the perfect wife. She'd made my favorite breakfast, scrambled eggs with cheese, toast cut diagonally the way I liked it. The domestic goddess act might have been touching if I hadn't spent half the night reading her explicit messages to another man. "You seemed tense last night," she said, setting the plate in front of me. "Everything okay at work?" "Just the usual," I replied, taking a bite. "Mrs. Henderson's computer crashed again. 3rd time this month." Poor thing. She must be so frustrated. Jessica sat across from me with her own plate, but I noticed she was barely eating, too excited about her upcoming spa weekend. Probably. "Speaking of which," she continued, "I confirmed the reservation for this weekend. Marina and I are really looking forward to some girl time." Marina Volkov owned a day spa downtown, the kind of place that charged $50 for a facial and called it therapeutic. She was Jessica's closest friend, or at least that's what I'd thought until last night. Now I wondered how much Marina knew about the affair and whether she was actively helping to cover it up. "That's great, honey. You deserve a break." I kept my voice neutral, supportive. "How much is this costing us again?" "Oh, not much. Marina got us a deal through her business connections." Jessica waved her hand dismissively. "Don't worry about it." "Not much. According to the credit card statements, not much was $3,000 for 5 days. Money we didn't have, charged to a card that was already maxed out. But I didn't say anything, not yet. After breakfast, I kissed Jessica goodbye and headed to my first appointment of the day. But instead of driving to Mrs. Henderson's house, I took a detour through downtown Millbrook. Our little town had seen better days. Half the storefronts were empty, and the ones that remained were struggling. Marina's Spa was one of the few businesses that seemed to be thriving, probably because it catered to women like Jessica, who needed somewhere to spend money they didn't have. Chad's dealership was on the other side of town, a sprawling lot filled with shiny vehicles and colorful flags. I parked across the street and watched through my windshield as Chad glad-handed customers and slapped backs. He was exactly what you'd expect: mid-30s, artificially white teeth, hair that required too much product. The kind of guy who'd peaked in high school and never gotten over it. As I watched, a young couple approached him about a sedan. I could see Chad's whole routine from here: the big smile, the firm handshake, the way he stood just a little too close to the woman while ignoring her boyfriend. Classic predator behavior. My phone buzzed with a text from Jessica. "Forgot to mention, staying late at Marina's tonight to plan the trip. Don't wait up. Love you." Love you. The words should have meant something, but they felt hollow now. Just another lie in what I was beginning to realize was an entire relationship built on deception. I drove to Mrs. Henderson's house and spent the morning rebuilding her computer from scratch. She was a sweet old lady, probably in her 70s, and she apologized constantly for being such a bother. It was a nice change from my home life, where I was taken for granted at best and actively deceived at worst. "You're so patient, dear," Mrs. Henderson said, bringing me a cup of coffee. "Your wife is lucky to have such a dedicated husband." "Thank you, Mrs. Henderson. That's very kind. I hope she appreciates you. Good men are hard to find these days." If only she knew how right she was. That evening, I had the house to myself. Jessica was supposedly at Marina's planning their spa weekend. In reality, she was probably at Chad's place, planning something entirely different. I used the time productively, diving deeper into their digital trail. Chad wasn't as careful as Jessica about covering his tracks. His social media was a gold mine of information. Photos from restaurants I recognized from our credit card statements, check-ins at locations where Jessica claimed to be doing other things. He'd even posted a picture of an expensive bottle of wine with the caption, "Thanks to my special lady for the amazing night," dated the same evening Jessica told me she was having dinner with her sister. But the real treasure was in Jessica's cloud storage. She'd been backing up everything automatically, including photos she probably thought she'd deleted. Dozens of pictures of her and Chad together, at restaurants, in hotel rooms, at what looked like Chad's apartment. In some of them, she was wearing jewelry I'd never seen before, expensive pieces that definitely weren't in our budget. I downloaded everything to an encrypted drive, then started planning my next move. The key to any good revenge is patience. Rush in angry, and you make mistakes. Take your time, plan carefully, and you can destroy someone so thoroughly they never see it coming. I'd learned that from years of debugging complex systems. The problem is usually obvious once you know where to look, but finding it requires methodical investigation. Jessica and Chad thought they were so clever, sneaking around behind my back. But they'd left a digital footprint the size of a crater, and I was going to use every bit of it. I started with something simple. Chad's dealership had an online review system, and like most businesses, they were sensitive about their reputation. I created a few fake accounts and left some carefully worded reviews mentioning unprofessional behavior and inappropriate conduct with female customers. Nothing libelous, just enough to plant seeds of doubt. Then I moved on to Jessica's social media. She'd been posting constantly about our happy marriage, sharing photos of us together with captions about how blessed she was. I started liking and commenting on posts from months ago, the ones from right around the time her affair started. Just innocent comments like, "Remember when we were happy?" and "Those were better times." Anyone looking at her timeline would start to notice a pattern. The beauty of it was that both of them would assume these were random coincidences. Bad luck, maybe, but nothing they could trace back to me. I was just the quiet tech guy after all. What did I know about social media manipulation or reputation management? By midnight, I'd laid the groundwork for Phase 1. Nothing dramatic, just small cracks in the facade they'd built. Over the next few days, those cracks would start to widen. Jessica came home around 1 in the morning, trying to be quiet as she slipped into bed. She smelled like Chad's cologne, but she probably thought I was too asleep to notice. "How was Marina's?" I mumbled, pretending to wake up. "Oh, you know how it is with girl talk. We lost track of time." She snuggled up against me, and I had to fight every instinct not to pull away. "I'm so excited about this weekend. It's going to be exactly what I need." "I'm sure it will be," I said, wrapping my arm around her. "You deserve to be pampered." She fell asleep quickly, probably exhausted from her evening activities. I lay awake next to her, staring at the ceiling and planning her destruction. By the time I was done with them, Jessica and Chad would wish they'd never met each other, and the best part was, they'd never see it coming. Friday morning arrived with Jessica practically vibrating with excitement. She'd packed 2 suitcases for her spa weekend, more clothes than most people brought on actual vacations. I watched her from the doorway as she folded lingerie I'd never seen before into her bag. "Marina's picking me up at 10, she said without looking at me. "We want to get there early to enjoy the full experience." "Sounds perfect. You've been working so hard lately, you deserve this." She paused at that, finally meeting my eyes. For just a moment, I saw something that might have been guilt flicker across her face. Then it was gone, replaced by that bright, fake smile she'd been wearing all week. "You're so understanding, Ethan. I'm lucky to have you." Lucky. Right. After she left, I waited exactly 30 minutes before putting my plan into motion. Phase 1 had been about laying groundwork. Phase 2 was about applying pressure. I drove to Chad's dealership, but not to confront him. Instead, I parked in the customer lot and walked onto the showroom floor like any other potential buyer. Chad was with another customer, so I browsed around, taking mental notes of the operation. "Can I help you find something today?" A younger salesman approached me, eager and hungry. His name tag read, Mike. "Actually, I'm looking for Chad Brennan. He was recommended by a friend." "Oh, Chad's with someone right now, but I'd be happy to help you. What kind of vehicle are you interested in?" "It's more of a personal matter," I said, lowering my voice conspiratorially. "My friend mentioned Chad was really accommodating with female customers, if you know what I mean." Mike's expression shifted, confusion mixing with discomfort. "I'm sorry, I'm not sure what you mean." "Come on, man, we're all adults here. My friend said Chad really knows how to treat the ladies, goes above and beyond the normal sales experience." I could see the wheels turning in Mike's head. He was young, probably new to the job, and I'd just planted a seed that would grow into gossip by lunchtime. In a small dealership, rumors spread fast. I think maybe you should talk to our manager," Mike stammered. "No need," I said, backing toward the door. "I'll catch up with Chad later. Thanks for your help." I left Mike standing there, looking confused and uncomfortable. By the end of the day, he'd probably mentioned the weird conversation to at least 3 other people, and in a small town like Millbrook, that was all it took. Next stop was Marina's spa. I'd never been inside before, but as Jessica's husband, I had a legitimate reason to be there. The receptionist, a girl who couldn't have been older than 20, looked up as I entered. "Hi, I'm Ethan Morrison. My wife Jessica is supposed to be going on a spa weekend with Marina this weekend, and she forgot her medication at home." I held up a prescription bottle I'd grabbed from our medicine cabinet. I was hoping I could catch them before they left. The girl looked confused. "I'm sorry, but Marina's not going anywhere this weekend. She's got appointments booked all day." "Are you sure? Jessica said they were going to some resort upstate." "No, Marina's definitely here. She's with a client right now, but I could give her a message." "That's okay," I said, pretending to look puzzled. "Maybe I misunderstood. Could you just let Marina know I stopped by? Tell her Jessica forgot her heart medication, and if their plans changed, she should call me." The receptionist nodded, making a note. "I'll make sure she gets the message." Perfect. Now Marina would know that I knew something was off about Jessica's story. She'd probably call Jessica in a panic, which would create exactly the kind of stress and confusion I was looking for. I spent the rest of the day at legitimate work appointments, but I kept my phone handy. Sure enough, around 3 o'clock, Jessica called. "Hey, honey," she said, and I could hear the tension in her voice. "Marina said you stopped by the spa?" "Yeah, you forgot your pressure medication. I thought I could catch you before you left." "Oh, that's so sweet of you to think of that. But we're actually meeting at the resort directly. Marina had some last-minute appointments she couldn't reschedule." "I see. Well, should I drive up and bring it to you? I could make a day trip of it." "No." The response was too quick, too sharp. "I mean, no, that's okay. I have some extra pills with me. Don't worry about it." "Are you sure? It's no trouble." "I'm sure. Look, I have to go. We're about to hit the road. I'll call you tonight, okay?" She hung up before I could respond. I smiled to myself, imagining the frantic conversation she was probably having with Chad right now. They'd have to be more careful, change their plans, maybe even cancel the trip altogether. But I wasn't done yet. That evening, I drove past Chad's apartment complex. His truck was in the parking lot, and I could see lights on in what I assumed was his unit. Jessica's car was parked 2 spaces away, tucked behind a dumpster where she probably thought it wouldn't be noticed. I didn't get out of my car. Instead, I took some photos with my phone, making sure to capture both vehicles and the timestamp. Then I drove home and settled in for the evening. Around 9 o'clock, my phone rang. Jessica, checking in from her spa weekend. "Hi, honey. Just wanted to let you know we made it safely. The resort is beautiful." "That's great. What's the weather like up there?" I was looking at weather reports online as I spoke. The Adirondacks were supposed to get thunderstorms all weekend. "Oh, it's lovely. Clear skies, perfect temperature." Lie number 1. "And how's Marina doing? She seemed stressed when I saw her today." "She's fine. Just excited to relax. We're about to get couples massages." Couples massages. The irony was almost too much. Sounds wonderful. "Hey, what's the name of the resort again? I want to look it up online." There was a pause. It's called Mountain View Wellness Center. It's really exclusive. They don't have much of a web presence." I was already searching as she spoke. Mountain View Wellness Center existed, but it had been closed for renovation since June. Strike 2. "Well, have fun. I love you." "Love you too. I'll call you tomorrow." After she hung up, I sat back and considered my options. I had photos of both their cars at Chad's apartment, proof that Jessica was lying about her location, and a growing list of inconsistencies in their story. I could confront them now, but that would end the game too quickly. No, I wanted them to suffer first. I wanted them to feel the same anxiety and paranoia they'd been putting me through for months. I wanted them to understand what it felt like to have your world slowly crumble around you, and I was just getting started. I opened my laptop and began crafting my next move. By Monday morning, both Jessica and Chad would be dealing with problems they couldn't understand or trace back to me. Small problems at first, but they'd escalate quickly. The quiet tech guy was about to show them exactly what he was capable of. Saturday morning, I woke up alone for the first time in years and actually enjoyed it. No fake smiles, no carefully constructed lies, just coffee and silence while I planned the next phase of my campaign. My phone had 3 missed calls from Jessica, all from around midnight. When I called back, she answered on the first ring. "Ethan, thank God. I've been trying to reach you." "Sorry, I was asleep. What's wrong?" "Someone broke into my car last night. Well, not broke in exactly, but someone went through it. All my stuff was scattered around and—" She paused, and I could hear Chad's voice in the background. "And they left a note." This was interesting. I hadn't touched her car. "What kind of note?" It just said, "I know what you're doing," in block letters. It's probably just some random crazy person, but it's really freaking me out. I had to admire Chad's paranoia. He'd probably convinced Jessica that someone was on to them, Maybe even planted the note himself to make her more dependent on him. Classic manipulation. That's terrible, honey. Did you call the police? Marina and I thought about it, but nothing was actually stolen. And we don't want to ruin our weekend over some prank. Maybe you should come home. If someone's targeting you specifically? No, I'm not going to let some creep chase me away. Besides, Marina thinks it's probably just kids playing around. Marina. Right. I wondered if Jessica even realized she'd been about to say we when talking about calling the police. After we hung up, I spent some time thinking about this development. If Chad was paranoid enough to stage a break-in, he was already feeling the pressure from my earlier moves. Good. Paranoid people made mistakes. I decided to turn up the heat a little more. Chad's social media profiles were treasure troves of information. He posted constantly photos of his meals, his workouts, his car, his apartment. He was one of those people who couldn't experience anything without broadcasting it to the world. It made him incredibly easy to track. More importantly, it made him easy to mess with. I started small. Chad had posted a photo of his breakfast that morning with the caption, "Fuel for a great weekend." I created a fake account and commented, "Enjoy it while you can." Then I deleted the account immediately. He'd see the comment in his notifications, but when he tried to check it, the account would be gone. Just paranoid enough to be unsettling, but nothing he could prove or report. I did the same thing with several of his recent posts. Brief, vaguely threatening comments that disappeared as soon as he tried to investigate them. Within hours, Chad was posting about fake accounts and cowards who won't show their faces. The beauty of it was that his friends and followers would just see him ranting about comments that no longer existed. He'd look paranoid and unstable, which would hurt his reputation both personally and professionally. But I wasn't done with Chad yet. I'd been monitoring his email through some creative social engineering, a fake password reset request that I'd intercepted and used to gain access to his account. His inbox was full of the usual spam, but there were also some interesting business emails. Apparently, Chad had been skimming money from his sales commissions. Nothing huge, just small amounts that he probably thought no one would notice. But I noticed, and more importantly, I now had documentation. I forwarded the relevant emails to an anonymous account, then sent them to the dealership's owner with a note. Thought you should know what your employees are doing with customer payments. By Monday morning, Chad would have bigger problems than mysterious social media comments. Around noon, Jessica called again. She sounded stressed. "Hey, just checking in. How's your day going?" "Pretty quiet, just catching up on some work. How's the spa treating you?" "Oh, it's great, really relaxing." She paused. "Ethan, has anyone been asking about me lately? Like, anyone you don't know?" "What do you mean?" I keep feeling like someone's watching me, and after the car thing last night, I'm probably just being paranoid, but, honey, you're scaring me. Maybe you really should come home." "No, I'm fine. Marina thinks I'm just stressed from work. A few more days of relaxation will help." Marina again. I was starting to think Marina knew a lot more about Jessica's affair than she was letting on. Maybe it was time to find out exactly how much. After Jessica hung up, I drove downtown to Marina's spa. It was busy for a Saturday, which was good. Lots of people coming and going, easy to blend in. I didn't go inside. Instead, I waited in my car until Marina stepped out for a smoke break. She was a thin woman in her 40s, with the kind of artificially youthful appearance that required constant maintenance. She looked stressed, checking her phone constantly. As I watched, she made a call. I was too far away to hear the conversation, but her body language was agitated. She kept looking around like she was worried about being overheard. When she finished the call, she immediately made another one. This time, I could see her lips moving rapidly, like she was arguing with someone. My phone buzzed with a text from Jessica. "Having such a great time. Wish you were here." The timestamp showed she'd sent it 3 minutes ago. Marina was still on the phone, still looking agitated. Interesting coincidence. I drove home and spent the rest of the day doing legitimate work, but my mind was racing. The pieces were starting to come together, but I was missing something important. Marina wasn't just covering for Jessica's affair, she was actively involved somehow. That evening, I got another call from Jessica. This time, she sounded genuinely frightened. "Ethan, something really weird happened today." "What's wrong?" "We were at the spa, getting treatments, and the receptionist said someone had called asking about me. A man, claiming to be my husband, wanting to know what services I was getting." A chill ran through me. I hadn't called any spa. "What did you tell them?" "I told them it wasn't you, that you wouldn't call asking about stuff like that. But Ethan, what if someone's really stalking me? What if this is more serious than we thought?" "Jessica, I think you need to come home right now. This is getting scary." Maybe you're right. Let me talk to Marina and see if we can leave early." "Don't talk to Marina. Just get in your car and drive home. Now." "But Jessica, I'm serious. Someone is clearly targeting you specifically, and I don't want you taking any chances. Come home tonight, and we'll figure out what to do on Monday." There was a long pause. I could hear muffled voices in the background, like she was covering the phone and talking to someone. "Okay," she said finally. "You're right. I'm probably overreacting, but better safe than sorry. I'll be home in a few hours." After she hung up, I sat back and tried to process what I'd just heard. Someone was definitely playing games, but it wasn't me, which meant either Chad was more paranoid than I'd thought, or there was a third player in this game that I hadn't accounted for. Either way, Jessica was coming home early, which meant my timeline had just accelerated. I'd been planning to let them sweat for a few more days before making my real move. But if someone else was stirring the pot, I needed to act fast before the situation spiraled out of my control. It was time for the endgame. Jessica walked through our front door at 11:30 that night, looking like she'd seen a ghost. Her relaxing spa weekend had clearly been anything but relaxing. She was pale, jumpy, and kept checking her phone every few seconds. "Thank God you're okay," I said, pulling her into a hug. She felt tense in my arms, like a coiled spring. I was so worried. "I'm fine," she said, but her voice was shaky. "Just tired, and freaked out, honestly." "Did anything else happen after we talked?" She pulled away from me, avoiding eye contact. "Not really. Marina thought I was overreacting, but I just couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching us." Marina again. Every time Jessica mentioned her friend, I noticed the same pattern: deflection, minimization, attempts to make Jessica doubt her own instincts. It was starting to paint a very ugly picture. Where is Marina now? Did she come back too? No, she decided to stay, said she'd already paid for the weekend and wasn't going to let some creep ruin her vacation. Jessica finally met my eyes. "Ethan, what if this is connected to your work somehow? What if someone's trying to get to you through me?" It was a reasonable theory, and exactly the kind of misdirection I would have used if I were trying to cover my tracks. But I wasn't the one playing mind games with my wife, at least, not the games she was talking about. "It's possible," I said carefully. "I work with a lot of sensitive information. Maybe someone thinks you know more than you do." Jessica nodded, looking relieved to have an explanation that didn't involve her own guilty conscience. "That makes sense. Should we call the police?" "Let's wait until morning. If someone's really targeting us, we need to be smart about how we handle it." She agreed, and we went to bed. Jessica fell asleep quickly, exhaustion finally overcoming her anxiety. I lay awake beside her, staring at the ceiling and trying to piece together what was really happening. Someone had been messing with Jessica and Chad all weekend, but it wasn't me. My moves had been subtle: social media manipulation, anonymous tips, small pressures designed to create stress and paranoia. What Jessica was describing sounded more direct, more personal. Around 3 in the morning, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "We need to talk. Meet me at Riverside Park tomorrow at noon. Come alone." I stared at the message, my mind racing. Someone knew about my investigation, and they wanted a face-to-face meeting. It could be Chad, trying to confront me directly, or it could be someone else entirely. Either way, I was going to find out. The next morning, Jessica seemed more like herself. She made breakfast and chattered about normal things: work, the weather, plans for the upcoming week. But I noticed she was still checking her phone constantly, and she jumped every time it made a sound. "I think I'm going to take a few days off," she said suddenly. "Just until we figure out what's going on." "That's probably a good idea. Maybe we could take a little vacation together? Get away from all this stress?" She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Maybe. Let me see how I feel in a few days." At 11:30, I made an excuse about running errands and drove to Riverside Park. It was a small recreation area on the edge of town, mostly used by joggers and dog walkers. At noon on a Sunday, it would be relatively quiet. I parked near the playground and walked toward the picnic tables. A woman was sitting alone at one of them, her back to me. As I got closer, I recognized her. Marina Volkov. She turned as I approached, and I could see she'd been crying. Her carefully maintained appearance was disheveled, and her hands were shaking as she lit a cigarette. "Thank you for coming," she said without preamble. "We need to talk about Jessica." I sat down across from her, keeping my expression neutral. "What about Jessica?" "Don't play dumb with me, Ethan. I know you know about Chad." There it was, the confirmation I'd been waiting for. "How long have you known?" I asked. "Since the beginning. I introduced them." Marina took a long drag from her cigarette. Jessica was so unhappy, always complaining about how boring her life was, how unappreciated she felt. Chad was recently divorced, looking for some excitement. It seemed harmless at first. Harmless. I let the word hang in the air between us. I never meant for it to go this far. It was supposed to be just a fling, something to make Jessica feel desired again. But then they started talking about running away together, and Jessica started stealing money. "Stealing money?" Marina's laugh was bitter. "You really don't know, do you? She's been skimming from your joint accounts for months, transferring small amounts to a separate account that Chad set up for her. They're planning to disappear together, Ethan. They're going to take everything you've worked for and start over somewhere else." The world seemed to tilt around me. I'd known about the affair, but I hadn't realized the scope of their betrayal. They weren't just cheating. They were planning to rob me blind and vanish. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. "Because I'm scared." Marina's voice was barely above a whisper. "Chad's not who I thought he was. He's been pressuring Jessica to move faster, to take more money, and when I tried to talk her out of it, he threatened me." "Threatened you how?" "He knows things about my business. Tax issues, licensing problems, some cash transactions I didn't report properly. He said if I didn't keep my mouth shut and help them, he'd make sure I lost everything." The pieces were falling into place. Chad wasn't just a sleazy car salesman. He was a predator who targeted vulnerable women and exploited them. Jessica had been his mark, and Marina had been his unwitting accomplice. "There's more," Marina continued. "This weekend, when Jessica got spooked and wanted to leave early, Chad lost it. He accused her of being weak, said she was going to ruin everything. Then he started talking about permanent solutions to the problem." "What kind of permanent solutions?" "I don't know, but he was talking about making you disappear. Said it would be easier than divorce, and Jessica would inherit everything." Marina stubbed out her cigarette with shaking fingers. "Ethan, I think he's planning to hurt you." I sat back, processing this information. Chad wasn't just stealing my wife and my money. He was potentially planning my murder. The paranoia I'd been cultivating in him had apparently pushed him over the edge. "What do you want from me?" I asked. "Help me stop them. I have evidence. bank records, recordings of conversations, proof of what they've been planning. But I can't go to the police alone. Chad will destroy me if he finds out I betrayed them. I looked at Marina, really looked at her. She was terrified, desperate, and completely out of her depth. She'd helped orchestrate the destruction of my marriage, but she was also offering me the tools to fight back. What kind of evidence do you have? Marina reached into her purse and pulled out a flash drive. Everything. Bank transfers, hotel receipts, text messages, even some audio recordings from when they met at my spa. I've been documenting everything, partly for insurance and partly because I had a feeling it would end badly. I took the flash drive, feeling its weight in my palm. This small device contained the complete destruction of Jessica and Chad's plans. There's something else, Marina said. They're planning to make their move this week. Jessica's going to clean out your accounts on Wednesday, and then they're both disappearing. Chad's already quit his job and sold his apartment. Wednesday, 3 days away. What do you want to happen to them? I asked. Marina met my eyes for the first time since I'd sat down. I want them to pay for what they've done. To both of us. I smiled for the first time in days. I think we can arrange that. That evening, I sat in my home office while Jessica watched television in the living room, completely unaware that her world was about to collapse. I plugged in Marina's flash drive and began reviewing the evidence. It was even worse than I'd imagined. Jessica and Chad had been planning this for months, mapping out every detail of how they'd steal my money and disappear. They'd researched new identities, offshore accounts, even plastic surgery to change their appearances. But they'd made one crucial mistake. They'd underestimated the quiet tech guy. By Wednesday morning, Jessica and Chad would discover that their careful plans had been turned against them. The accounts they planned to steal from would be empty. The new identities they'd purchased would be flagged by federal authorities, and the evidence of their crimes would be in the hands of every law enforcement agency in the state. I spent the next 2 days preparing my revenge, working with a precision that would have made my old engineering professors proud. Every detail was planned, every contingency accounted for. On Tuesday night, Jessica kissed me goodnight and told me she loved me, probably for the last time. I kissed her back and told her I loved her too. It wasn't entirely a lie. I loved the woman I thought I'd married. But that woman had never existed. Wednesday morning, Jessica left for what she thought would be the last time. She was planning to go to the bank, transfer our life savings to Chad's account, and then disappear forever. Instead, she walked into the most carefully orchestrated trap I'd ever constructed. By noon, it was over. Jessica and Chad were in custody, charged with conspiracy to commit fraud, identity theft, and attempted murder. Marina had turned state's evidence in exchange for immunity, and the media was calling it the biggest financial crime scandal in our county's history. I stood in my empty house, looking at the divorce papers my lawyer had filed that morning. 12 years of marriage ended by a signature on legal documents. My phone rang. It was a reporter from the local newspaper wanting a comment about my wife's arrest. No comment, I said, and hung up. Then I walked out to my garage, opened a beer, and got back to work on my truck. I had a lot of rebuilding to do, but for the first time in months, I was looking forward to the future. The quiet tech guy had gotten the last laugh after all.